Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Allred,
Present?
Mr. Andressen,
Here.
Mr. Fell,
Here.
Mr. Hopkins.
Here.
Ms. McFarland, Mr. Rose. Here. Ms. Sims. Here. Ms. Yu. Here.
Okay, so it looks like we have a quorum. Changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
Approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the December 7th regular meeting of the Plan Commission. Are there any motions or comments on the meeting, on the minutes from the last meeting? Mr. Hopkins?
I move to approve the minutes, December 7th.
We have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. We have a second? Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion of the minutes? Any changes? If not, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Communications, do we have any communications?
We have received, since the packets went out, we've received 11 communications that were in support of case 2483-M23. That was the rezoning at 205 North High Cross Road. There were 2 communications opposed to that rezoning. And I believe there were some of those that were in favor of the rezoning were also in favor of the 2484T24, which is the text amendment to remove self-storage facility from the B3 zoning district.
Okay, thank you. Okay, continued public hearings. We have none. Old business.
Yes.
Do we have a updated presentation on that from staff or any questions for staff?
We do. Well, so I sent out a very brief memorandum in your packet. So just really briefly, for background, back in November, the staff asked the Plan Commission to consider changing their bylaws to reduce the number of meetings to 1 per month, to be held on the first Thursday of the month. And then at that meeting, there was some concern expressed by the commission and a request that staff return with additional information at a later date. So we put together a few options for you to consider at this point. So those options are basically stick with the current calendar, which is having Plan Commission meet on the first and third Thursday following the first committee of the whole meeting each month. The second option would be to simply meet on the first and third Thursday of every month. And then the third option was the option that we had initially proposed, which is just to meet on the first Thursday of every month. So our recommendation is that you consider those options and let us know what you would like us to do.
Are there any questions for staff about any of the options presented? Mr. Hopkins?
So we can act on this tonight?
You can, since it was originally proposed back in November, yes.
So for reasons I described last time, I'm not interested in the 1 meeting a month proposal. So that leads to the question of, I think there was a scheduling reason for our meeting on the first Thursday after the first Monday, which was a council study session. Is that reason no longer valid? Is that, in other words, that's the only difference between the other 2 options, and I don't know whether
Correct,
it
yeah.
matters.
And I can't recall the reasoning. I know it's been that way for years and years. So I'm not sure of the original reasoning for doing that. I can say if we switch to just the more simple first and third Thursday of every month, that would build in certain months, so the ones that are marked in red on here that would be changed, that would give staff an additional week to prepare to go to committee for those months, but it wouldn't affect any of the other months. So it'd make things a little bit easier for us.
To do it on the first and third instead of the first and third after the first Monday.
Correct. Also, I think it's easier to understand.
That's why I'm asking if there's
Right.
a, so now, we've forgotten the reason we used to do it the other way, so let's do it on the first and third Thursdays. Seems to me, anyway, that's my view.
Okay.
Do we have a sense of how many meetings don't happen because we don't have quorum? Maybe like in the last year or on average?
I had that in, if I can step over here, I can pull that up because it was in the last staff report. Okay, so according to this, when we were looking at a 2-year period, there were 49 total scheduled meetings. 18 of those were held as scheduled. 27, so the majority of them were not held due to lack of agenda items. Only 3 were lack of quorum.
Okay, so not being able to get quorum hasn't really been.
It's not, no, we're pretty well attended.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. Any other questions for staff? Yeah, that wasn't working last time, I think, too. Mr. Rose?
Are applicants expecting a 2-week rather than 1-month turnaround?
I have not heard from any potential applicants on whether it would be burdensome or not. I think one could infer that it might be. You know, two options each month are probably, you know, better if you're an applicant.
I can weigh in?
Yeah,
right?
sure,
Okay.
Andrew, yeah.
As probably the only member of this,
Is your mic on?
yeah, it's on. As probably the only member of this commission who's had to present in front of this body, it should be every 2 weeks, because there are times, not often, but times when there are financially critical deadlines and components and having to wait. The issue is not necessarily, not just the meeting once a month, but the prep time to get to that and the lead time to submit your material. So you might, only once a month might mean that it actually delays a project 4 or 5 months because you just can't get up to that. So as someone who presents to the commission at times, I would greatly prefer to have the option of having a meeting every 2 weeks.
Any other questions for staff? Right.
Need a motion?
Yes. Are we ready to make a motion?
I move that we have change the bylaws to make the meetings occur on the first and third Thursdays of the month.
Okay, and just to clarify, that would be option 1, right?
That's, as it's written, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second by Ms. Sims. Any discussion on the motion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Andressen?
Yes.
Mr. Fell?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes,
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Sims? Yes. Ms. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. All right, that brings us to our new public hearings. We have 3 new public hearings this evening. First up is Plan Case Number 2482M23, a request by Brad Bennett on behalf of the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District to rezone lots 1 and 2 of the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District Subdivision 1 from R3, single and two-family residential, to CRE, conservation, recreation, and education. And I assume we have a staff report, presentation?
We do,
right.
yes. Give me just a sec.
I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so as stated, there's a request by Brad Bennett on behalf of the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District, or UCSD. This is to rezone 2 of their lots from R3 single and two-family residential to CRE, conservation, recreation, and education. This proposed rezoning would bring these 2 lots into alignment with the rest of UCSD's campus. Staff recommend approving this proposed rezoning as it satisfies the rezoning criteria. This site, as you can see, is it's approximately 2.2 acres. It's at the north end of Cottage Grove Avenue. It is west of Ambucks Park. It's also north and northeast of one of the oldest residential neighborhoods in Urbana. The land use, this is an old aerial, but there is a solar farm on the site, so this shows up as vacant here, but there's actually, as you can see in this aerial, there is a portion of the solar farm which is actually owned by the CUMTD, and they use it to power their hydrogen bus refueling station. Okay, so as you can see, to the north and west are institutional uses. To the east is Ambucks Park, and then, as I stated, to the south and west are residential uses. So the existing zoning, you can see most of these surroundings are conservation, recreation, and education. So again, the rezoning would just be to sort of flip these large residentially zoned parcels which have never had housing on them, and which have been used by UCSD since the 1980s at least. It would bring them into alignment with their existing zoning. This would also align with the institutional future land use and the comprehensive plan, and staff see no potential issues in permitting this rezoning. I will not go through each of the rezoning criteria for the sake of time here, but I will say that the request meets a preponderance of those criteria to rezone it. I can take any questions if you have them, but again, staff recommends that the Plan Commission forward this case to the City Council with a recommendation to approve the rezoning. Thanks. Oh, and Mr. Bennett is here if you have questions pertaining to UCSD.
Okay, thanks. Monitor?
Because I can't see the screen, I don't have much to work with, but thanks. So CRE permits the solar farm.
The solar farm's already in existence, but let me grab my zoning ordinance.
Yeah, I thought the staff memo said that it was allowed with a special use permit.
That sounds correct. Actually, I think it's probably just in here.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping, but
Yes, and I will say it was built before we had passed the solar text amendment.
That's what-
So we had to use we allowed it under previous rules where we had been treating solar of any kind as a mechanical
right.
system.
So
Okay.
it was approved under that, and so it is not going to be a non-conforming use, or do we need to actually pass a special use permit
So
explicitly?
we shouldn't need to pass a special use permit explicitly. We see this as bringing it into further conformity with the zoning because in the R3 district, I don't believe solar farms are
It would no
allowed at
longer,
all.
but that's a revision from that. Okay, I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
I
though.
see where we end up. I want to make sure that at least in the record, we have recognized that that's where we're ending up.
Yeah,
Right. So it's
By
currently,
implication, this is now there as a special use permitted use, and it is conforming.
right.
it was permitted under previous zoning ordinance before we had rules for solar farms.
I agree with
Okay.
that. The question is now, if we rezone this to CRE, it would be non-conforming unless we now granted it a special use permit. Am I making sense or?
You're
not?
you're making
So I
sense.
suggest that we at least put in the record
Yes.
that we are considering this to be conforming and to have a special use permit based on the previous permission granted. I don't know how to legally do that, but I think at least needs to be in the record.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Mr. Fell?
I do have a question that seems very obvious, but I just want to be sure. The city owns both of these lots currently, correct?
UCS
them? Okay.
UCSD
Yes,
owns
deed.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, no further questions for staff? All right, I'll go over the rules for a public hearing. The petitioner or the applicant will be able to address the commission if they would wish. And then anyone in favor will be allowed to address the commission. Anyone opposed will be allowed to address the commission. Then at the end, if needed, the petitioner can address the commission again and address any of the comments that are heard. Then we will close the public input portion, discuss, and possibly vote. Does the petitioner wish to address the commission? Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? No? All right. Anyone in favor wish to address the commission? Anyone opposed to the proposed rezoning wish to address the commission? All right, so we'll declare the public input portion closed and go into a discussion amongst the commission and possibly entertain a motion to vote. Is there any discussion among the commission? We're ready to make a motion.
Okay, I move we send plan case number 2482 M23 to the city council with a recommendation of approval and recognition that the current solar farm is a conforming use based on an implied special use permit.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah.
Mr. Fell?
Sure, not to doubt Lou, but can we do that? Can we blanketly issue a special use permit when we're this way?
Well, I don't know that Mr. Hopkins is trying to issue a special use permit necessarily. I think he is just trying to acknowledge that. Mr. Hopkins, what are you trying to do here?
So I think what I said, but my motions often have this problem, is that we send it recommendation of approval with the implied special use permit that makes it a conforming use. So it's not actually, it's, as Kevin was trying to describe, we approved it under a different ordinance before. And when we approved it under that ordinance, it became a conforming use. So I don't want it to become a non-conforming use in this rezoning, because that sort of defeats the whole purpose of the rezoning.
Well, how about this? Because I don't think we can grant a special use permit. What if we, in
Why
the motion?
can't we?
Well,
Yeah,
we
it's
just make a
gotta-
recommendation to council. We don't grant special
No,
use
but
permits.
we can add that to the recommendation.
Yeah, but
We need a public hearing.
yeah, it would need to be properly noticed.
Yeah.
Right, so
What if,
that's
wait,
why I'm trying to leave it the other way.
so what if we just say that we direct staff to research this issue and figure out the best way forward to avoid creating a nonconformity?
Okay. That's the objective.
works
is
for
to
me.
make sure it's a non-conforming use.
Okay,
But there's also a flip side, which is to recognize, to not give any future public proposal the impression that a solar farm is permitted in CRE without a special use permit. Because by implication, that's what we're doing. Anyway, I
Well-
think Dustin's
yeah,
suggestion is,
we could, if we rezone it and it's legally nonconforming, that doesn't create the impression that we are saying that it doesn't require a special use permit.
but we are not acknowledging at the moment that it's non-conforming, and I don't think we want to. Anyway,
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sure it needs to be acknowledged that it's non-conforming in some way. When we adopted our solar energy text amendment, we essentially made any existing solar farm non-conforming, if we're to view them these way, because it requires a special use in every district that it's allowed in. Right now, it's more non-conforming because we don't allow solar farms in R3 at all.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Anyway,
It's-
the point is in the record. I think that's what matters. So
Okay.
If you want to delete that from the,
okay.
it's okay with me.
So is everyone, Mr. Rose, do you have a comment?
Has a special use
For the current farm, you mean?
is there one on record?
There is not, because we, so before we did our solar farm text amendment, we really had no good rules in the zoning ordinance for how to treat things like solar farms. So we had to fall back to treating them as mechanical systems. And so that's what we treated this as when it was approved and it was allowed at the time. This is one of the reasons we did the solar farm, or the solar text amendment, was because we needed a better way to deal with these things.
I think as long as we have that documentation and that through line, then we should be fine. But we'll
Yes.
leave it at the direction for staff to look into this.
Okay, thank you.
I just ask one clarifying question.
Sure.
So is there not like a grandfather statement provision that we can typically state, right? Because it seems like, like a lot of times when I'm thinking about legal processes, you can just sort of say, because this is what it is in place, there's a grandfathering or grandmothering provision.
Yeah.
And that we don't have anything like that?
Well, I mean, that's what the whole non-conforming section of the zoning ordinance is about. It's kind of odd because it's non-conforming currently, and we're rezoning it to something that it's still non-conforming under, so.
Okay, so is everyone good on the revised motion intent? Okay, so it seems like we're ready to vote. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Fell,
Yes?
Mr. Hopkins? Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Sims?
Yes.
Ms. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes.
Ron Dress?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Do we have a date for council for that one?
Sorry, I'll get it for you in a second. February 18th.
All right. Yes.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, plan case number 2483M23, a request by the Urbana zoning administrator on behalf of the Urbana City Council to rezone 20...
Dustin, can I jump in? Sorry, it's February 19th for that last case. I will let Brad know via email because he already left.
Okay,
I don't think he'll be coming in on a Sunday, though.
yeah.
Or wait, is that? Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, I will let you open the next case.
Okay. All right, I'll start over. Plan case number 2483M23, a request by the Urbana zoning administrator on behalf of the Urbana City Council to rezone 205 North High Cross Road from B3 General Business to B1 Neighborhood Business. So the attorney for the property owner has submitted a request to continue this case to the February 22nd meeting based on their inability to prepare for the public hearing due to the short time between receiving the notice and the meeting. So is there a motion to continue plan case 2843M23 to the February 22nd, 2024 meeting?
I'll move that we do that.
Motion by Mr. Fell. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Sims. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Hopkins?
Do we have any representatives of the current owner present?
I do not know what all their representatives look like, but if there are OSF representatives, yes, okay.
I'm not sure what the procedural opportunities are here, but we now have in communications information from them. And if their representatives are here, I'm a little curious whether they still want this continued. Do we know?
It's my understanding that they do want the case continued. That's been made very clear to me and through the letter. I believe the representatives that are here tonight are not the legal representation that they would like to have here.
Any further discussion of the motion? All right, seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hopkins? Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Sims?
Yes.
You?
No.
Mr. Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Andressen?
Yes.
Mr. Fell?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. So we'll continue that to the February 22nd meeting, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
2 weeks from today.
Okay, that brings us to plan case number 2484T24, a request by the Urbana zoning administrator to amend Table 5.1 of the zoning ordinance to remove self-storage facility from the B3 General Business Zoning District as a conditional use.
Yes, I do not have a fancy presentation. I'm just going to speak from here. So
Okay.
this is,
Could I make a ask a question and make a suggestion? Having read the legal brief, part of the contention is that making the current contractual proposal a non-conforming use is part of the contest from the legal point of view, and therefore dealing with this, which would also make it a non-conforming use, should also be continued to that same meeting. And I would, if appropriate, make a motion to that effect.
I believe that would be appropriate.
Okay, I'm open to that. Do we have a motion? Is that your motion? Okay.
Can you say that, maybe just be more clear to continue the case and give the number and the date? Okay, thank you.
I move that we continue plain case number 2484T24 to the February 22nd meeting.
We have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rose. Any discussion?
Lou, would you please explain why specifically you want to do this? Or why you believe this is appropriate, I guess?
So both of these cases are, in effect, attempts to make a proposed development which has already been given a conditional use permit, a non-conforming use. That would be the effect of both of these proposals. Arguably, that cannot affect the existing approved use. However, as the legal document that has been submitted requesting the continuation of the previous case states, OSF still currently owns the property. The contract to sell it to the approved developer has not actually been consummated. The approved developer in that sales contract is identified as being concerned about it becoming a non-conforming use. Since both of these cases would yield that effect, I think it's inappropriate to consider them separately given the legal question involved.
I have a question for staff, clarification.
Yes.
Does staff intend that removing self-storage facility as a conditional use automatically puts it in as a permitted use, or is it no longer allowed as a permitted use, a special use, or a conditional use?
Yeah, strike. So our proposal is to strike it completely, so there would be no letters in the table of uses, so it would not be allowed at all. Sorry, in the B3 district, it would still be a permitted use in industrial zones.
I agree with Mr. Hopkins that this case also has the potential to make the proposed development on this property to be legally nonconforming. However, it seems like the rationale or the reasoning for the text amendment that's explained in the staff memo relates to concerns about the proliferation of self-storage units on properties Zone B3 citywide. And so I don't know that it's necessary to not address this case in light of the specific proposal for the property at 205 North High Cross Road. With that said, we can take a motion and vote on that. If
Believe
there's
it-
any other discussion.
We already have the motion and the
Oh.
second on the table.
Any other discussion? I forgot about that. All right, it seems like we're ready to vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Sims? Yes. Ms. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Andressen?
Yes.
Mr. Fell?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. So that will be continued also to the February 22nd meeting. Okay, new business. I don't see any new business on the agenda. Audience participation. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Plan Commission for 5 minutes uninterrupted on a topic of your choice? If so, please come forward and sign in.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Vicki Trimble, and this will be brief. I received the packet of the public input. I sent an email exactly as addressed. Joanne Buddy, who is on here, as well as Rich Lampman, who also sent an email. I got theirs first. I had direct instructions from them on how to do it. I did exactly what they said. I have it in my sent email. It went at 7:05 on this past Saturday, February 3rd. I was told it had to be here before Tuesday of this week. And I addressed John Andrick on Sunday after I sent mine, saying, this is how you do it. John sent his and is on here. But Vicki Trimble is not showing up on here, and I have mine. So I'm concerned that I sent an email exactly as they did theirs. It's not showing up, and you folks didn't get it to read. And so I'm also wondering how many more perhaps did not make it to your desks, which is a great concern of mine, because we've had trouble getting our voices heard by at least the zoning board. And now we get to meet with you, and we were very eager and hopeful that we would then have a new opportunity to be heard by people and who are in power and have the opportunity to help us. And here mine didn't make it again. So how do I address this? What do I do? And how can I make sure it doesn't happen in the future?
Ms. Trimble, was that this Saturday that you had sent it? Sure.
February 3rd, 7:05.
I'll speak into the mic so that we can get this on record. So anything that was received after the packets went out, because packets went out on Friday. So any comments we received after that, we packaged up and we shared with the Plan Commission earlier today. I believe we sent those out. So you should have, is Ms. Trimble's communication in there?
It's not listed in the summary.
Okay. We will, since this case is still open, we will make sure that it gets in there, gets in the public record, gets to the Plan Commission, and I
How do we know
apologize.
that others aren't lost in your email system somewhere? Because I have other neighbors who perhaps sent some, but they aren't showing up here, and I don't know if they did or didn't. We're relying on you to get them in there, just as I was hoping you'd get mine in there.
Yes. Well, we will get yours in there. I will send you the packet of all of the input we've received between when the packets officially went out and then today.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you,
thanks
Board.
for raising that to our attention.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the commission? If you could sign in as well.
And feel free to sit at the table, too.
Yep.
My name is this on? My name is Joanne Buddy. I'm a homeowner in Behringer Commons, and I was speaking to people out in the hallway. Several people say that they sent public comment that they never got acknowledged. I mean, usually we get an acknowledgement that you received it, but several people are saying that they sent public comment that were not aware that anybody that you got presented with.
If they followed the instructions for submitting it, it will have gotten to us, and I will go back through and make sure that everything that's in our packets is also in there, and see if anything was missed.
Because some people sent it to you directly per the letter. And does that also make it into the packet?
It does, yes.
Okay, and then other people sent it to the planning, okay.
Correct, yes.
So I can verify tomorrow if there's people that say they sent things and you don't have them on record. I mean, I sent 2 and you only had 1 initially in there, so stuff does seem to fall through the cracks. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Anyone else who wishes to address the Plan Commission? Mr. Rose?
So that there will be
Notifying them how? Just sending them all of the additional, or all of the comments packaged up?
something like that.
Yes, we can do that, and I will, in that email, I will also let them know, in case they weren't here tonight, or in case they don't hear, that the case has been continued to the 22nd as well. Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to address the commission? All right.
I just make a
Ms.
quick
Sims?
comment just for the record. I just wondered, that's also a question. Tech support, just double check that. Every time there's an update, it feels like it filters things out that shouldn't.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Staff report? Is there a staff report?
There is none.
Study session? I'm assuming no.
Bill had a question to me earlier about Hope Village. He wanted to know the status of it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Hope Village was approved by City Council. I can't recall the date off the top of my head, but it's been approved for the PUD and the plat.
Okay. Thanks for the update. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Did that answer?